All right, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to our presentation today. We're really excited to have you all. Carmen Sullo is actually walking around. She's picking up cards for those who have had an opportunity to fill that out. Our presentation today is, let me actually put it up. It's a very riveting topic. I'm so glad you guys are here to hear it. Leading security when the rest of the business doesn't care about security. So, just by way of quick introduction, my name is Kimberly Parsons. Some people may know me in my past life as Kimberly Lewis. I actually just recently got married, so I'm still trying to adjust to the new name. So Kimberly Lewis Parsons. A couple of things about me really quickly. I am always an IT advocate at heart, although I masquerade as an HR kind of person. I really have a passion for people and for teams. I have some coaching certifications. It's part of my profession. And I don't like having this passion for people and teams just because I love people and teams. It's all about helping people and teams to work together more effectively to accomplish greater business results. Because at the end of the day, right, that's why we go to work, is to have great business results. So Carmen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. Ooh, wow. So we're still working out the mic situation. This seems a little loud. But my name is Carmen Sullo. My background also is in IT and also in business. I've had a lot of experience in working within both business project teams and IT teams and coming together with GE and Capital One and some other places as well. My passion is really around growing people and teams. I just think that the work that we do, the software that we build, the capabilities that we build are great, but for me, it's really about bringing people together to show the best possible versions of themselves that inspire the best possible versions of the people that they lead. And I care a lot about fostering a values-based leadership culture. It's the way that I approach leadership, is what do we really care about and what brings us together? And I think that's going to come through today. Sorry.
Cards.
Do you want me to go get more cards?
Okay. Thank you. So actually, I hate doing the introduction kind of part, but that's okay. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's actually talk about what we're here for today. So leading security when the rest of the business doesn't care about security. So when Carmen and I were actually coming up with this topic, we did some little check-ins. We reached out to a couple of colleagues, professionals at different companies, so Verizon, TSYS, GE, Capital One, Markel, a couple other places, and we got some feedback from people. We said, hey, this is the question that we actually asked them. We said, in your experience, what is one area in project delivery that could be more effective in the partnership between security and project teams? So I want to read what you guys actually said first, so thank you. I exceeded my goal of 2 cards. I actually have 3, that's awesome. So communicate early. So that is a challenge that you guys have actually said is a challenge when actually delivering projects. So I'm guessing this is somewhere around maybe there's a lack of communicating early. Requirements. It's one word and it has a star by it. So okay, requirements is maybe a concern, a challenge when we're actually delivering projects. Okay, the last one that I have. Including security at the beginning of the project plan, not as an afterthought. Is somebody clapping for that? Oh my gosh. All right, so a lot of energy and passion around that. Okay, we have one more. Thank you, sir, I appreciate it.
I've got a couple here too. I've got project teams do not at all, that's in caps, consider security when they deploy projects. This causes friction and delays in deployment. Include ACAP application info security and solution design discussions, sorry. The handwriting was really actually quite good. Security is still a bolt-on to projects. Security context is not present with project team. need to better understand or determine security requirements up front,
Okay.
project-focused security assessment.
Okay, good. So a lot of the same themes that you guys are coming up with. So it looks like you're probably in the right talk. We appreciate you coming. Great. We also wanted to share with you all the feedback that we got. So we actually went to people that were on the other side of the table, right, that we consider project teams, and just sharing a quick snippet of what they actually said. So first one here, sometimes the security team gets so focused on a potential risk that they lose sight of the value that the effort will bring. It would be good for the security team to have a good understanding of the business case so that the cost of added security can be weighed against both the risk and benefits of the project. It's also beneficial to have the security team engaged in a project as early as possible, sound familiar? So that if there are security needs that should be addressed, they are identified early enough in the project to take the necessary steps to implement the solution. At my company, we basically had no involvement with information security. In fact, I don't even know if it exists. Parentheses, I mean, I'm sure it does, but we never had any security requirements or anything. We heard the theme of requirements, right? Okay, I think the biggest thing I struggle with is understanding what the security folks are looking for in terms of risk. I feel like if I had a better idea where their heads were, I could not only answer their questions better, but perhaps even offer information that they didn't think to ask based on my knowledge of the situation. It's all about context. Did you have a context card, Carmen?
I do have context.
Okay. We don't hear from security until we're about to release, and then they find flaws and we don't have time to react. It feels like they show up at the end just to disrupt delivery. Okay. Ensuring that information security is an embedded part of the project delivery lifecycle. Often it's an afterthought or final checkpoint that leads to rework or suboptimal solutions. Okay. So I'm hearing a lot of the same themes from what you guys said versus if we're sitting across from our counterparts at this imaginary table. So a lot of the same things that are going on here. So the question really is, like, what's happening? Is it really a case where the business doesn't appreciate security, where they don't value it, where maybe they don't even know that people exist on a security team somewhere? Is that really the issue? Well, Carmen and I, for our presentation today, we actually submit that, you know what, it really doesn't matter if the business does not value security. There is a change that we can affect as security professionals, right? What's really going on is there is a misalignment between what we call team essentials. So the security team is coming at it from one perspective, the project teams are coming at it from another perspective, which is impacting how effectively we are actually delivering our results as a team, as a company. So there's a misalignment between the team essentials that's going on. So Carmen, you want to share maybe what the team essentials are before we move forward?
Yeah, so I think that kind of begs the question, if there's a misalignment of the team essentials, what are these mysterious team essentials? And basically, we look at teams operating, when teams are operating really effectively, they're operating really well across these axes. And we look at them as our 4 Ps: the people, process, product, and purpose. Sorry, I read out of order, my bad. So people, I think we tend to think of that as the humans that are the cheeks and seats, right? But it's also all the skills, the capabilities that exist on a particular team. It's all the stuff that goes into, do we have the capability and the capacity to do the work that we said we were going to do? Purpose is all about, what are we here to do? What did we come together to deliver? That seems pretty obvious. But when we think about it at the team level, there's a team level of our purpose and what the organizational purpose is. And sometimes there's a direct correlation, and sometimes we have to work at that correlation too. When we talk about product, that's really what is it that we're here to do. Sometimes we're in really service-based industries, and a product might sound a little bit of like a head-scratcher, but we are trying to deliver something. Right? We're here to deliver software, to deliver a project, whatever it is that we're here to do. So in product comes all the things that we use to measure the goodness of the thing that we're delivering. It's the quality of the product, it's the timeliness of the product, and those types of things. We put all performance metrics and goals. How do we measure the goodness of that product in there? And then the fourth one is process. Process is a big one too. Process really covers all the different ways in which we work together. Whether they're formalized processes, sometimes we have really formal rigor, roles and responsibilities, and sometimes they're just the communication processes, the things that we're doing that are kind of informal, we just know that that's how we do it. All of these things go into what we call the team essentials for what builds a really effective team. So now we talked about what builds a really effective team, and one thing that I heard a lot on the feedback that we got from some business partners as well as on the cards that we received was this idea of they this, we this, them. I don't really know what they want. I don't really know when they want us to come in, things like that. There's a they-them thing. So I kind of wonder, when we're operating and when we're wondering whether or not there's a good alignment, does our team feel like two completely separate teams where we're operating on completely separate measurements across those 4 team essentials, where they have a particular purpose? I might not even know what it is, not to mention be able to tell if it's aligned. So I wonder, what's really the cost of trying to deliver in this way? And then what becomes possible when we start delivering in this way? And when we say what becomes possible in the quality of the products that we deliver, but also what becomes possible in terms of the leadership that we show up with, when we're really influencing the ability to operate this way.
So if we take a look at this slide and we actually take the feedback that we got from business partners earlier, right, we categorized it into where there could be a misalignment along the vectors of our team essentials. And I'm sure that if we did the same thing with the cards that you all gave us, like we could slide it somewhere. We could slide the cards that you guys gave us under one of the 4 Ps that we actually have, right? So again, as Carmen mentioned, right, there is this sense of, well, I have a purpose and you don't have a purpose. My purpose is security. Your purpose might be this, but my purpose is security. Well, what is our purpose when we actually come together, right? Our process is, maybe we expect to have requirements up front. Their process is maybe we want to give them requirements at the end. Well, what would be a commonality? What would be a combined process that we all as the delivery team can actually utilize in order to get to a place where we are both comfortable with the requirements process? So again, everything that you guys said, everything that we heard prior to this session can be reflected back as a misalignment in the 4 Ps. Next slide. So you all came to us for a reason, right? And the hope is that you're starting to, in your head, sense maybe there was a misalignment between one of the team essentials on projects that I found challenging. Or maybe I'm working in an organization where I feel like I'm trying to lead security, but the rest of the organization doesn't care about security. Well, then my question to you all is, where do you feel like there is a misalignment in either purpose, product, people, or process? So here's the really interactive part of the day. You guys did awesome on the cards, so I'm sure this part is going to be great too, is you all should have received a worksheet. So here's the challenge, is for you to think about a challenging project, a challenging effort that is going on either right now in your organization or has happened in the past, right? Something to make you say, gosh darn it, the business doesn't care about security here because of this on that particular project. So bring that back to mind. And if you have an example of that, don't get so caught up in your visualization that you start taking it out on your neighbor that's sitting next to you, okay? So bring that back up. And what we'd have you do is on that worksheet is to answer that first question that's up there. So how aligned were you on the team essentials? So just think about whatever project that you're visualizing and go through each one. People, process, product, purpose. Do you feel like there was strong alignment, moderate alignment, or a low level of alignment? And you are going to check. you will check the box on something. You will check the box on something, jot down whatever notes, whatever comes to mind that makes you say, oh, okay, we had a low alignment because of X, Y, and Z. So take those notes there, okay? So we will give you 4 minutes to do that, 4 or 5 minutes to do that.
Let me just add one thing.
Yep.
If you're wondering, like, I don't even know what my business unit's purpose is, or I don't know what their processes are, the answer is you have low alignment. If you don't know what it is, you're probably not aligned on it. Does that help?
Okay. Very cool. Okay. So thank you for taking a few minutes to actually fill that in. Question is, any insights? Anything stand out to you? Anybody have low alignment on all 4 of their categories? It's okay if you do, no judgment. Anybody found high alignment on all 4 of their categories? Okay, 1 person, awesome. We want to work there. Okay. Any thoughts, any questions in doing that activity?
Actually, when I was walking around, I heard a couple of different things too. One of them was around where certain things belong, SDLC, for example. Where does that belong in our conversation? Generally, I would think about that as part of process. It's part of the way that we do work. But also think about, when we say SDLC, what does SDLC mean? For me, it's a software delivery lifecycle. But for some people, it's a security delivery lifecycle. And you can tell that I'm already kind of head scratching because I'm not really that familiar with it, which suggests a low alignment. Another thing I noticed a lot of as I was walking around was some head scratching around. I don't really know what to put here because I don't even know, and it could be, nobody said this, no judgment, but it could be, I don't even know my team's purpose, or I'm not even sure what my team's processes are. And that's valuable information to be thinking about. And then the last thing I also heard as we were walking around was, hey, I don't really have a lot of influence over these things. So I don't wanna skew your data by putting things down. And these handouts are for you, it's not our data. So good news, you're not skewing my data. But I think influence is an important thing to be thinking about, particularly when we're thinking about leadership. So that brings us nicely to our next slide. So if we're thinking about those 4 team essentials, and people, and product, process, and purpose, yes, I did that without notes. How would we rank the amount of impact we think each of those, that's not gonna work. What's the impact we think having an alignment would have on our ability to deliver effectively together? And also, what level of influence do you feel you personally have on being able to move the needle of the alignment? So if I have a lot of influence, I might think, hey, I can just come in and demand that we get aligned on purpose. I can come in and decide what this is. But if I don't have a lot of influence, I might be more of a position that says, I typically receive this. I don't really have a lot of ways to change this. And it's not just purpose, it could be any of them. And this could be different for every single one of you in the room. So let's take a minute, if you can, and you also have this chart on your handout. And so what I'd like you to do is to start with each of those, start with one of the 4 team essentials and decide, just generally, there's no right or wrong answer, you will not get graded. But where do I feel like the impact is of this particular team essential on our ability to deliver more effectively? And plot it on the chart. And then where do I think my personal influence is on being able to impact the alignment of that particular team essential? So again, if you just take a moment, take a guess, a gut reaction of where you feel like you are, and jot that down for a second, that'd be fabulous. You can also ask questions. All right, so you've had a minute to kind of think about where you would put these. What's the point? What's the point in looking at this? Well, to some degree, it has a lot to do with where do you want to focus your effort, and where is the biggest bang for your buck going to be? It's about prioritizing right? So just using this as an example, if I think that I have a lot of impact and influence over process, you know, I can make some strong influencing. I can dictate a particular process, or maybe I can wrangle a team together to build some processes together that will align the processes between security and IT. And I think it's going to have a high impact. That might be the first place I want to start. I can work on it independently, and it's going to bring a big bang for my buck, right? Requirements came up over and over and over again. So if this is about making sure that I have a really clear set of requirements that go into whatever your requirements repository is, or whatever it is, there could be some really great low-hanging fruit in there that we can get great impact on initially. The second thing I might shoot for is what I have a high influence on, but maybe not the best impact, because I know I can get those quickly. And when I get that work done quickly and I start influencing quickly, I start creating some communication, and I start creating some dialogue, right? And this starts to create a model for how we might interact differently. This is a way that we demonstrate our personal leadership across our teams that helps to influence the leaders on our teams to also step up and do more of the same. That's a great second place to start. The third place to start, that's also a great place to delegate. So if I've got people, perhaps there's some impact there or low impact, and I've got people who have influence that work for my team, that might be a great place to delegate to as well. Another place I might look at is where there's high impact and low influence. This is a place where I don't feel like there's not much I can do about this. However, what I do know is I know people who do have influence. And those are people that I can go and communicate with, I can schedule some time with, and we can come up with a plan that will create the impact that I'm looking for. This is, again, a great way to show up in your personal leadership that says, hey, I'm expanding my sphere of influence and looking to generate great impact here.
Okay, so now that you guys have actually done your mapping of this across influence and impact, the question is, where would you start? So we're assuming that you guys came because you want to lead security within your business. So going back, let's say next week, if you're actually going back to the office, where might you start based off of the assessment that you just did? Would it be, if this was y'all's chart, right, one place that we would suggest that you start would be process. Another place that you'd start might be purpose. So the bottom of that sheet, I believe, in the gray box actually asks you, what action can you take based off of the mapping that you have? Right, so I'm gonna give you like 2 minutes, write down an action that you might take. Where would you start based off of your assessment? What is one step that you can take to actually go back next week and start leading security, start leading alignment within your company? Okay, bless you. Okay, so it looks like people are looking at me, so maybe that means that you're done. As I always tell people, look done when you're done, so you guys are looking done. So what I'd like for you to do is turn to a partner, someone that's sitting next to you. Have a conversation. What is that action? First of all, any insights pop out for you based off of what your assessment has been? And then what is that action that you feel like you can take? What do you feel like you can influence? Where do you feel like having a higher alignment is going to be really impactful for you all? So again, this is the part that's interactive. You guys get to share with each other and maybe even help you to dig deeper into what actions you can take once you go back to your workplace. So we'll give you like 5 minutes to turn to a neighbor and have a conversation. All right. Okay, so as we were walking around the room, I like to eavesdrop. I don't know. Oh, security conference. So I kind of was eavesdropping a little bit on some of the conversations, and we actually heard some really good takeaways and discussion points that people were bringing up. And so I want to turn the floor over to you. what are some takeaways that you guys have or that you talked about, or some ahas that came up for you as you were having conversations with your colleagues? Carmen's actually going to run a mic. I know that we're goal-oriented, so let me set a goal. How about 2 people speak, and then we'll see if we exceed that. I'm not afraid to call on people, by the way. Hand in the back.
So I got to be honest that I'm struggling with this exercise, and I'll give you an example of something that is happening at where I work.
Okay.
So we have a team that needs to deploy a product, and I think in terms of purpose, everyone agrees and would agree that the product should be secure in its end state, because this is a product that's going to be customer facing. What happens is we can come to some kind of agreement, we, the security team, can come to some kind of agreement with the team of developers that we can say, yes, this product should be secure. Here are some ways that we want to secure it. And then the product team has a deadline, and as the deadline looms closer and closer, they say, oh, this deadline's looming, we're going to start taking shortcuts on where we go with this product. And at the end of the development cycle, the product is finished, but it's not secure to the point that we agreed on before it was deployed. And if we go to management and say, hey, this isn't secure, this isn't ready to be customer facing, the attitude we get is, I don't care, because we launched it on time. So for us, I think the problem is really one of culture. So how do you change the culture to make it so, there's some kind of enforcement on when we agree that something needs to be secure, and then it turns out that it isn't, and then it gets launched anyway, and then it's like, eventually we're going to get owned, and it's going to be on everyone in the company to be like, well, who didn't enforce this? And then everyone has to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing. And I'm definitely hearing a misalignment that's going on. If I asked you guys with the 4 Ps, where do you feel like culturally there is a misalignment? Which P would you guys think? Just yell it out. Process. What else? People. Who said people? Say more.
People have a choice to follow the process or not. A lot of times processes are there, but they get broken or overruled because of the people. And I see that's probably what, the biggest issue is the mindset, especially higher levels, C-levels, and executive levels that don't necessarily have a security mindset, and they're making the decisions for security.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you. I would also suggest product, right? So in the beginning, right, you said we felt like we were all in agreement that this should be a secure product because it's customer facing. However, at the end of the day, your actions speak louder than your words, right? And so the actions of being willing to put something into production that is not secure says to me that we were not really aligned, although our words said that we were. And so thank you for bringing that up, that a lot of this that we're talking about, yeah, it is cultural, it's systemic. And so that's why we asked you a question of where do you feel like you have influence? Because at the end of the day, it's going to be you coming back and leading change, leading alignment within that particular area. So what I'm hearing, sir, from you in that, it sounds like that one would have a really big impact. If we could get alignment on having security built into our products and actually making it a priority, that's gonna help us to be 10-fold, 100-fold more effective. Great. Now the question that I would ask you to think about is where do you feel like you have influence in that situation, right? Is it something that you can go to your manager if you feel like maybe you have a low-level influence to impact change? Is that something, who can you reach out to? Is it your manager? Is it your manager's manager? Is it someone on your business partner's team? Right, because at the end of the day, that's what this is about, is how do we actually start to move the needle on a cultural change? Because it's embedded. Okay.
That's the biggest problem for us is there's no buy-in. So I don't know who to go to say, hey, this is secure, because the goal of the company is to make money. And when the company puts that goal in front of, reaching these deadlines in front of, say, security, they don't make us any money. We do it them. Like, we can fix it later, which is it's not feasible.
Yeah.
Buy-in is the problem.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I say to that, one of the things as an IT professional that I got very good at, maybe ask my manager and see what their opinion is, but I feel like I got really good at is speaking the same language. So if you came to me and you feel like this is a culture where it is, hey, what is the NPV of me actually doing this, then that's the language that I would suggest that you speak. Here is the value. You know, we all know about the Target breach that happened, right? Pull some numbers, show some data. Because if money talks, if money answers, like if that gets things done within your organization, then speak that language, right? Because you coming to me as a business professional, as an executive, and saying, hey, security is important, I may agree with you, but if my culture is one where I need to see the dollar figures that's associated with it, then come to me and speak that language. You'll get my attention. Okay. Sir in the back.
Thank you. I'm just curious, actually, on the question of buy-in. Actually, I think there may be a bit of a ambiguity, if not kind of a problem, with this form, just from like a survey methodology perspective. And I think maybe, if I'm right, we might be able to do a quick experiment to see how what kind of effect it might have. I think it seems to me there's a bit of an ambiguity in the term delivery effectiveness and what it refers to. If there are people in the room here that personally identify with the project team kind of role in this scenario, if anybody fits that description, how many of you feel that the term delivery effectiveness actually refers to the project delivery effectiveness? And if anybody actually just think about it, and those of you who identify with the security side, how many of you would interpret the delivery effectiveness to delivery of security, you know, basically of the security requirements that you're supposed to be monitoring and enforcing? So I think actually the form could be read, you know, in good faith by parties who identify with the things, and actually they might end up saying the same sort of things, but the results could be quite ambiguous. They would actually be saying like the opposite. Mm-hmm. Just food for thought.
Thank you. I think that's a really good point. Another thing that we wanted to clarify is, you know, when we talk about the 4 team essentials, these are big headers, right? So when we go in, we would do a much deeper assessment at a much deeper level. And when we talk about like your comment around getting buy-in and, you know, they said that they cared and then they didn't care, and the problem being at the culture, there is probably, you could tie that, if we keep going deeper, there's a piece of that that reflects people, right, and how committed they are. There's also a piece of that that reflects process, and the process that I'm talking about is, what are you getting rewarded for? So when we talk about how do we influence in a way that we are really convincing people that they actually do care, it's sort of influencing at the WIFM level. What's in it for me? So if I'm a project delivery person and my job is to get something delivered, and at the end of the year I get a raise based on how many projects I delivered, and it has nothing to do with how secure they are, then that's what I'm going to focus on. Doesn't matter what I said at the beginning of the project. So then it comes down to having that conversation of how do I get what this language in that language, in the language of, and this makes your product delivery stronger, right? And I think that's influencing in a space of showing up as a leader to create leadership in others as well.
Okay.
So I would encourage you to think about, you know, across all those P's, what they are.
I think one of the things I would say is that to address the problem of getting the buy-in of the business side is, you know, to have a process where even if the product is not, you know, if they say that, okay, even I don't care about security, or, you know, if the product is not 100%, you know, ready for you from your point of view, you know, you used to get their, you know, sign off on a piece of paper, right, where like a release statement where they said, yes, I understand that this is not 100% secure, but then as a business manager, I'm agreeing for it. Once you ask the question of like sign off on a paper, the business will think twice. Okay, oh, this is where the accountability comes, right? So that is where we fail many companies, the process where we actually take the sign-offs from the business to approve that, whether it can be a defective product or even the security problems, anything, right? Once you ask them to put a signature on a paper to say that, yes, I am aware of this problem, but then still I'm going to go ahead with this. You ask that question, that's when they back off from there. You can try that.
Okay. All right, thank you. We probably have 3 minutes left, so one quick comment last.
So yeah, quick comment actually on this, because what he just did was basically translate that objection into a risk. So take that risk, quantify that into a dollar value as to what is the risk to them if they let the product go with these deficiencies and do get that sign off. That means they're accepting that risk, which is okay. Many businesses can accept the risk, there's no problem with that.
It's all about that languaging piece, right? And I think that that is a part of leading, is how do you language things and package it together so that people are able to then respond accordingly based off of what you just shared. I just want to say kudos, you guys exceeded my goal of 2 people speaking. That was really awesome. So that's the question for you to think about is as you're walking away, right? How do we actually start taking those steps towards alignment? What might be that one step that you want to take in order to start moving the needle on this? Because again, I admit, this is probably cultural. It's probably some very systemic things that are there. But if we never address it, then it always just will be. And so as leaders in your profession, how do we actually start to move the needle? How do we start to say, where is my place of leadership? Where is my place of influence in this? Who can I actually reach out to help me to influence this in order for us to start seeking that greater alignment? Because our case is, as you start to lead more alignment across the team essentials here, what will actually happen is you'll start to increase the credibility of security coming to the table. You'll also start to increase the value of security, right, within the eyes of your business partners. So thank you for your time today. We really appreciate you coming and having a conversation with everyone as well. All right.
Thanks, Kimberly. I just want to add one thing. I think the thing that comes out so clear from everybody is it's great that this is a different way to have a dialogue. So, and that's really the key point, is if you're sitting down with your business partners and you're truly partnering in having the conversation, it's just going to grow it's going to grow the teaming effectiveness all by itself by taking those 2 circles that were them and they teams and becoming closer to the one team. Yes, sir.